So, Angela's just a good friend of mine. I saw her in one of the first conferences that I went to, and she was like, "Oh, come and sit with me, I'll tell you all about storytelling." And she did. And she was really, really good. And we stayed in touch, and we're good friends and everything like that. And you guys have heard Angela before, right? Yeah. Did you like her stories before? Yeah. Are you going to like them all again? Angela Klingler.
The fossil record shows that the loon is the oldest bird in North America. Now, there once lived two sisters. They were so well behaved and could be trusted to behave even if their parents weren't there to watch. For example, all the children would be sent out into the woods to gather berries. In their arms, they'd have their baskets. And as all children do, you would eat one and pick one. Eat one and pick one. Now, the sisters would return with their faces smeared with juice, just like everyone else. Except their berry baskets were full when everyone else's was only half full. And because they could be trusted to behave, they were allowed to do pretty much whatever they wanted. And the thing they loved to do more than anything else in the world was to sit out at night and watch the stars. The older sister, she loved to watch the moon in its phases as it passed across the sky and the Milky Way, to watch for shooting stars. And the younger sister, Feather, enjoyed that as well. But her favorite part of the night was before the sun, when the morning star would rise. And one day she told her sister, if the morning star was a man, I would marry him. And so the days and nights passed. Fall was approaching. And the two sisters had been sent out into the wood to gather firewood, sticks, small twigs, logs. And they would gather them into a pile, and then they would wrap their strap around it and tie it tight. And then taking the strap, they would put it over their shoulder and return to their lodge, as their mother had told them to do. They had done it many times. But on this day, the older sister had her bundle on her shoulder, and Feather had her bundle on her shoulder. But every time Feather would take a step, her strap would break and the wood would scatter everywhere. Now here's the older sister with her bundle on her shoulder, and it is getting very heavy, because again and again and again Feather would tie her bundle, put it over her shoulder, not get more than 2 steps, her strap would break and the wood would fly again. Until finally the older sister, weary of the weight, said, I'm going to go on home. You follow me. This is so heavy, I can't hold it anymore. And she went on towards her home. Once again, Feather gathered all of her wood, bound it tight with her strap, pulled it straight, and was just about ready to stand and put it on her shoulder when she heard a voice say, Feather, I have heard you will marry me. There on the forest trail alone, she looked up, and standing before her was the most handsome young man she had ever seen. His hair was long and black and shining, dressed in buckskins, decorated with elk teeth, and his face shone. She knew it was Morning Star. Again he asked, will you marry me? All she could do was lower her head and smile and nod yes. From his own hair he took an eagle feather and placed it into hers. Then he took a juniper twig, and from the wide 2 cords, silvery flowers, he held it out straight and said, stand on the bottom strand and hold the top one in your hand. Don't open your eyes. And immediately, she could feel herself flying through the air. But she kept her eyes closed tight until she felt solid ground underneath her feet. And when he said, "Open your eyes," before her was the shining lodge. And she realized she was now in the sky world. Morning Star took him into his lodge where he lived with his mother and his father. His mother, the moon, his father, the sun. Now his father was journeying across the sky as he does every day. But the moon welcomed her in and was so pleased with her manners and her face and her beauty. She gave her a buckskin dress, also decorated with elk teeth, and she was welcomed in. And that night when the sun set and he returned to his home, he too met Feather and impressed as well. Soon, they were married. She was told that she could go anywhere she wished in the sky world. Her mother-in-law gave her a digging stick so that when she made her way through the day, she could dig out good roots to eat. But she was told never dig near the great turnip in front of the shining lodge, for if she did, sadness would come to them all. In time, she was with child. And then finally the day came and she gave birth to a little boy, which they named Star Child. On her back, she would carry him as she would dig for roots during the day. Time passed until one day, she'd passed it 1,000 times. But on this day, she looked at that giant turnip and she wondered how deep did it go into the ground. And she took that digging stick and she stuck it into the ground and tried to dig, when all of a sudden that digging stick was stuck. She pulled and pulled and pulled with all of her might. Her tears began to fall as she wailed, and all of a sudden she heard. Two loons flying by saw her. They flew down, and together they were able to dislodge that digging stick. She had her stick, but when she looked, the turnip had moved. And when she looked down into the hole, it went far deeper than she could imagine. Far, far below. She could see the earth. She could see her village, her parents, her sister. She could hear the women singing as they worked, the children laughing as they played, and her heart was filled with such a heavy homesickness. She could not hide it on her face. The minute she walked into the shining lodge, Morning Star took one look at her. He knew what she had done. There was nothing that could be done. She had dug the turnip. She had seen the earth. And because of that action, she could no longer stay in the sky world. With tears in his eyes, he took Feather's hand, and Morning Star led them to Spider-Man's lodge. And there the two of them wrapped her child in a great elk skin rug. And as she was wrapped, Morning Star gave her directions. She could take her son with her back to the earth, but he would only stay if she could manage to not let him touch the ground for 14 days. He told her to make a mark on the back of her lodge so that she would not forget. And then together the Spider-Man and Morning Star led her down on a great silver cord towards the earth. Far below, her sister was watching the stars when she saw this great light coming right at her. And the closer it got, she realized It was her sister, Feather. They embraced. She was welcomed home by her sister, her parents, the whole village. And she told her mother how her son could not touch the earth for 14 days. She made a mark on the back of the lodge so she would never forget. And she took furs and piled them up, making a ridge around the edge to contain him so he could not crawl off those furs. And for 13 days, he did not touch the earth. But because she could not tell her mother why, on the 14th day, her mother asked her to go and get water. She took the bladder, she checked on her son, and she made her way as quickly as she could to the water to fill it and return. Yet while she was away, her mother was stirring the great pot of food, and the baby became cranky. The grandmother looked and would continue stirring. And all of a sudden, that baby crawled over the very edge of those furs, and his hand touched the earth. He began to howl and scream as if in pain. The grandmother quickly scooped him up and put him back in the very center of the furs and went on with her work. And when Feather entered the lodge, she asked, "Where's my son?" And her mother said, "He's there in the furs. He's very cranky. He must have needed a nap because he pulled the covers up over his face." Yet when Feather looked and pulled back the covers, her son was gone. That night, Feather and her sister sat out watching the stars as they had done all their childhood. And when she looked up into the sky, she saw there was a brand new star. It was where the turnip had been. From that day to this, that star has been known as the Nail Star, the North Star. It holds the stars travel around it. In December, Comet Isis will be passing by, and for the entire month, we should be able to see it, unless it's raining. But for a whole month, surely there'll be at least one night it won't rain. And on those cold nights, if you're watching the sky, remember this warm day and your friends from camp.